and welcome to this video from zonalaudio.com. Today we're going to be looking at ambient and drone patches on the Elektron Digitone. So this pattern is part of a project which you can download now at zonalaudio.com called DN Weapons. There's 32 patterns and 100 sounds. Several of them are of this ambient, droney nature. And today we're just going to have a look at how you'd achieve a sound something similar to this. There's a few other patterns we'll take a look at as well. So, starting with this sound, it's worth noting that the unison page is essentially, we can see there's some unison because it's lit up blue. And in fact, we have locked 8 voices to this track with a unison of 2 and a spread of 39. Ultimately, that maxes out what we have available for the other tracks. So if you wanted to add something on another track, you would have to reduce the locked voices, consider removing the unison. But do be aware that could lead to some clicks and pops. Oscillator Sync has done an excellent video on how to deal with these sorts of things, so we'll leave a link for that in the description. So even just playing around with this unison can give quite a different tone. And it's one of the best things about this machine. Within several tweaks, you've got a very different sounding patch. So now it's like super massive, dark, gnarly, real dystopian sound. Whereas if we bring it right back to where we were, it's much more pleasant. And obviously, this is all performative. Even though we can't parameter lock any unison values, it can be performed. Okay, so we'll actually look at what's going on in the sequencer before we go on to sound design. So where we see the flashing is where we are up to, and you'll notice it's very slow, and if you've seen the playhead moving, it's very slow. But if you look up here, we've actually got a tempo of 138. So we go to the pattern information, 138, no swing. However, in the page and scale, we have a scale of 1/8, meaning it's going super slow. It's going 1/8 the speed of 138 BPM, basically. And that means if you were to play around with the unison and remove it so you can put something else on track 2, it's going to be at 138. So just something to note there about how you can utilize the scale per pattern function, or the scale per track, I should say. And you can toggle between the two by doing function and yes. So it's always going to reset every 64 steps. But it's moving nice and slow. And I'm just scrolling along the transport here to note there is no trig parameter locking going on here. There is a channel probability of 72%. So what's really giving this the sound is syn level A being brought in over time with this slow attack, and that combined with the filter also having a very slow attack on the envelope. Infinite release on the filter, and in terms of the amp, again, a slow attack. The release is almost as long as it can be without being infinite, and then a length of 50 steps. So even though it's moving very slowly and the trigs are quite sparse, it's a very long note. So we are almost always going to be getting a sound. So we've got this drone style effect. And I've actually done something here incorrect. We need to put the master length up. So that's what's happened when I've gone to demonstrate that you can swap between. The master length is reset to 64. So something worth being aware of. So yeah, doing these long ambient droney patterns in this way, we want to set a master length, which means it gives it enough time to get to the end. There's no particular rhyme or reason here to the master length. If you want to do the math, you can. I'm just setting an arbitrary length that means it's going to play all of our trigs that we've got in the sequencer. So we're on algorithm 5. And C and A are just left at 0. We've got no detune, no feedback. But B is set to 0.53/3. And you can have a little tweak around with that to see if it changes. It's not having a huge effect on the sound until we hold it down and we allow the filter and the sin level B to come in. So when we're on the 0.5, that gives us a nice low tone, really thickens the sound up. So well worth having a little play around with these parameters. Essentially, it's fairly basic on this page. However, on sim page 2, there is a slight detuning of each operator, which again helps give it a bit of warmth, a bit of movement. Again, we've mentioned this being the main variation of the sound. So obviously we're hearing a lot of reverb and delay there, a lot. Really, really long reverb time with a lot of the lows cut out. But it is just this track, and yeah, we're sending fully pretty much to both. So yeah, almost fully to the delay, just almost quite to the reverb. And the delay is also being sent to the reverb, as is the chorus. We don't have any on there. There's plenty stereo width anyway, but you can always add it if you wish. So in terms of the notes on the sequencer, obviously it's the chord. So we press this button and then go to whatever scale you want, basically. For this one, we've gone for Hungarian minor, and then set the keyboard fold on. So keyboard chord. So this would just be the scale, and then we can put the chord on and then fold it down. So we've essentially got access to more chords. And then it's just a case of step record and put in the notes that you like. You can always move them around the sequencer, add some parameter locking afterwards. So in terms of the LFO, we've utilised both LFOs. One going to syn pitch all. This is your classic kind of trick to make anything sound a bit more analog and warm. So a very fast moving LFO, but a very, very small amount in terms of the depth. It's running freely in sine, so just a very, very small wavering of the pitch, making the sound a little bit more rich. A similar setup, but with syn level B. So that is this here, which when I moved it before, you heard it changed sound quite significantly. So that is actually just moving a tiny bit up and down all the time with our LFO. Again, to go into different territories. Which is what this machine is all about, really pushing the boundaries within the limits of the box. Another good tip, by the way, is if you want to snap back to 0, you can do that holding funk. Okay, we'll go take a look at a different pattern now. So again, we're utilising the scale to slow the sequence down. And you'll have noticed some nice, interesting things going on there. So similar to the other patch, we are essentially just transposing around tricks for the most part. So different notes, different note lengths. And then this one has probability as well, much lower velocity, and some changes on the filter. And this one is what's giving this interesting movement to some of them. As a side note, the original sound is something from the Digitone stock sounds. It's not part of the sound bank, I think pretty much every sound is from DN Weapons, possibly apart from this one, but it is heavily edited. So again, when this one and the previous one plays, they have Sin A level increased significantly. Okay, and then that one has Sin B increased. So that's why that kind of more harsh, crazy sound comes in at the start. So to try and demonstrate that, let's increase it on this one, and hell, let's go for both of them. See what happens. We just have to wait patiently for it to come round now. Patience is a virtue when making drone and ambient music. You can hear that's already happening on the one on the page previous. So now we get really crazy effects. You know, you can parameter lock all sorts of stuff. And I now don't have the patience to listen to this all the way through. I'm going to copy that trig. Let's just jump in front of the transport and stick it there. Crazy stuff. So I could further mess around with this. Let's jump in again. Super crazy. That's a really spicy one. So we could put that in at a probability of 13%, so some kind of random generative stuff going on. So we have that amp pant there giving a bit of a nice stereo sound. Similar effect with the pitch all on the LFO. This time it's not free moving, it's on trig. And it has a fade. I would imagine this was set up by the clever sound designers at Elektron. Obviously, that gives a very interesting effect. As it is down low there, just gives again that nice bit of movement and wobble to the sound. But yeah, I implore you, whether you buy the DN Weapons pack or not, but any patch that you come across, just play around with the parameters and see what interesting stuff you can come up with. So we're going to take a look at another pattern now. This is pattern 4 on bank B. And we have a lead sound, Levlac, drone sound, Tud Run, both from the DM Weapons sound pack. So the drone, we have a fairly slow attack again, lots of reverb, delay, lots of chorus as well this time, no filter envelope, a little bit of kind of mixing EQ. But what's really making the sound evolve is the envelopes on the synth engines. So A has a delay, so that's not even sounding until this. So we've got Syn A rising, and by the time that gets to the max is around the time that Syn A starts to come in and modulate the sound. So we have probability of 19%, and again track probability with the first track being set to play the first time only. So when I press play, this will play, and then all the others, or I should say these two, have a 19% chance of playing. This one, even less chance, 6%, but is playing a different note. So D4, D4, G3, and then A sharp. So I'm going to increase the probability of this just so we hear it come in and we can see the effect. Just mute the lead as well. So it's that note there. So very occasionally that's going to come in and give a real different feeling to the drone. Sounds quite gritty and gnarly at the moment. I forgot to mention in the other patterns there is a touch of master overdrive. This one, driving it pretty hard. It's a digital overdrive, but it sounds pretty nice. Bringing this down will give a much smoother sound. However, it can sound a bit glassy, that kind of classic thin FM glassy sound, which may or may not be desirable. For this one, I did find a nice push on the master overdrive and made it sound much warmer. So you can hear those drone notes really increasing, which is why this was very low. They were kind of overlapping, getting very loud. We have not locked any voice to that, so that's something you might want to do. In terms of the sound design here, so we're in algorithm 7. It's interesting to have, I find the divisions of 0.75 and 0.25 can be extremely interesting to the sound. So here there's significant detune on the operators, quite a lot of detune here as well, a little bit of feedback. Feedback is on a slow moving LFO. As is the synth detune. Okay, so plucky sound here. As we look at the amp envelope, we notice there is actually some attack, so it's not always plucky, and then there is some parameter locking. There is some parameter locking going on somewhere, I'm sure. parameter looking, it is the LFO. In this instance, a free moving LFO moving quite slowly on the amp attack, meaning some of them sound nice and plucky, some of them have this sweeping in. So what we're often doing here is making it so things are happening very slowly, sometimes almost subliminally, but that really can hold interest over time. So, with this being a lead patch, the operators are typically set quite a bit higher. And this is what really helps with the tone for a lead. And again, we've chosen scale. A lot of these will have just been live recorded in and then edited afterwards. And it has a probability of 84%. So most of these trigs are going to play most of the time. Cool, so we're going to look at one more patch, which isn't ambient as such. However, there is a very interesting sound that we can look at that kind of has very similar principles. So it's this big bass sound. I think is track 4. And it's playing in a nice call and response with this part. So focusing on the sound design of this one. So it's the preset SX Wunderbass. However, I'm quite sure that it is heavily edited. Just to play the sound on the keyboard, you can hear it's pretty wacky. So again, we're looking at the LFOs to get this kind of movement. I mentioned earlier when the operators are set to 0.75 or 0.25, you get essentially a more dissonant sound. Heavy detune, a bit of feedback. Again, we've detuned some of the operators, and then again we've got syn A and B doing different things, and that essentially modulated by the LFO. So this is LFO 1 on syn B envelope attack. So that is this one here. And then LFO2 is on ratio B. So that is this parameter, and that is being moved in a stepped fashion. So sin A attack, so that's this one, so that's moving around, and then this, I should say, yeah, so this is moving around quite freely, and then this is moving around in a stepped fashion. And the two combined give very interesting results. So again, we'll listen to that in the pattern. So it's a step length of 10. So it's just about allowing that stepped nature to come in, and then it has a nice amount of release. And again, it's doing the column response with the ARP. Could go much further with this sound in terms of the release and the length of the note. Of course, reverb and delay, also some chorus, some drive, and vibrate drive on the master channel. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget, this whole project and sound bank is downloadable now from zonalaudio.com. It's called DN Weapons. I hope you found this video informative, helpful, inspirational. If you found it useful in any way, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. If there's anything that you didn't quite understand or you would like more information on, feel free to leave a comment. Until next time, cheers, bye.